Hello everybody, I hope you've managed to get a tea or coffee or herbal tea or whatever takes your fancy. I'm Giles Perkins, I'm the Head of Future Mobility for WSP and very privileged to be the Programme Director for Live Labs. I've been working on this project for a couple of years. So I'm very close to what the Live Labs have been doing, and you've heard about that this morning, but a bit of a change of pace here. What we wanted to focus on in this next section was looking at some of our SMEs, and you heard Hannah talk before about we've got over 70 SMEs, and we've taken a cross section today. So we've taken one SME from each of our Live Labs, and we're having what's called a Pechakucha session, or it's in inverted commas actually, it's a reduced version. So this is 5 slides, 5 minutes for each of our SMEs that we've selected to pitch what they're doing with their product, innovating in the local road space. So this is quite exciting, it's quite pressured. Just so all of our SMEs know, you'll be invited by Helen, who will make your camera and video live. You will have 5 minutes. At 1 minute to go, I will give you a prompt, and then at 5 minutes, unfortunately, I'll cut you off because we've got to crash through the program. So when you need your slides advancing, just say next slide, and I will drive all the slides from this end. So first up, we have Excel Composites with John Hartley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Hartley. I am the Technical Director of Excel Composites, and I'm representing Buckinghamshire County Council on the ADEPT project. Our project brief was to review the manufacturing techniques of the lamppost and to develop a new concept for the 21st century using modern materials and manufacturing and control technologies. Moving from the cast iron gaslight in the 1800s through to steel and halogenated light systems in the 1900s, basically to 21st century composite materials and 3D printing. The challenge was that we were required to complete the task while still retaining the visuality of Victorian architectural elegance, as you see in the central slide. Next slide, please. Starting with back of the envelope sketches and preliminary calculations with shapes and sizes, etc. We further developed several conceptual ideas on how we envisaged the new lamppost could be manufactured and assembled. And after many brainstorming sessions, iterations, and even coffee breaks, the final concept developed, focused on having a modular concept, which was capable of a range of heights between 5 and 10 meters. And we looked at both molded and 3D printed ancillary items, and these were evaluated. Following this initial design development, we then moved on to the next phase. If we go to the next slide, please. Which, following the preliminary investigations, we actually moved on to modern analysis technology and techniques. So we had developing spreadsheet calculations, we had CAD modeling, finite element analysis, and simulation. This actually allowed us to build a computerized model of the proposed solution and evaluate it fully for the design wind loadings, the imposed stresses, strains, and deflections. We then verified this with our own in-house design calculations with the commercially available software. Having completed this, we then moved on to the next phase. So next slide, please. And having demonstrated the computer modeling concept was a suitable design and one which was compliant with the necessary European and highway standards, we then built the first lamppost prototype. This followed by independent testing, which was with Lloyd British, to achieve the required certification for the lamppost to be installed on the highways. The first prototype is shown in the picture on the right, and this is designed for 8 meters in height, and we included future proofing with the addition of an electrical car charger unit. Following the next slide, please. Following the final review meeting with the Bucks County Council, the site was chosen for the first installation. This is Fairford Leeds in Aylesbury, and the height of the lamppost was defined. The finalised prototype has now been completed and manufacturing has commenced. It's anticipated that we'll be installing in Aylesbury in the first quarter of 2021, and this will deliver the requirement of a smart lamppost with the lighting itself being controlled by a cloud-based computer system developed by Enlight, who's a fellow partner in the project. The finalized solution will deliver the requirements of the project, manufacturing a 21st century lamppost using modern materials and technology, whilst retaining the Victorian architectural elegance. Thank you. That completes my Pechakucha presentation.
Thank you, John. Almost to the second. Brilliant. Thank you. Next up, Lawrence from PaveGen and Central Bedfordshire.
Lawrence, you're on mute.
Helen, can you unmute?
Okay, perfect. I think it was okay. My name is Lawrence, and I'm the founder and CEO of PaveGen. We make floors that convert the weight of your footsteps into electrical power. Whenever you walk on our floor, we produce 2 to 5 watts of energy. And today we're talking about a installation we're doing at Central Bedfordshire at Leighton Buzzard Station. So we're going to tell you a bit about the story and then go into the project itself. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Or can I control it? Okay, so our vision, and funny enough, I started off building streetlights for E.ON, and they fired me because I couldn't find a solution. That was 10 years ago. We've now received investment from the richest men in the UK and 5,000 other investors supporting our mission. So our mission is to improve cities through the power of a human footstep, because we believe that technology alone isn't the answer to improve the urban infrastructure we live in today. And we've made energy fun. When you walk on our floor, it generates power, but you can also see the energy, and it's down to you. We powered the outside of the White House, and as people walk outside, this was a collaboration project with the District Department of Transportation in Washington, DC, but people jump all the time because they're making a difference and they're powering their city. We've also got an aspiration to be a digital layer in cities. So the floor connects to mobile devices as you walk over it. And we'll just go on to the next slide, please. So the PaveGen technology takes something as simple as a human footstep, and we have a series of electromechanical flywheels within the product that will spin and generate power. It's one of the most efficient ways to generate power. We've won awards from the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, the World Technology Prize, and many other coveted awards. The technology works inside and outside. We've got 4 years of data of it being installed, and that's out in the US, where it gets extremely cold. And we can put different top surfaces on the product as well. So it's a really functional technology, and we've developed over 700 versions of it so far. Next slide, please. So it's really durable, and we are doing a pilot at Leighton Buzzard Station. Now, Leighton Buzzard Station might not be renowned for innovation, new ideas, and disruptive technology, but we're set to change that. So we've broken ground less than 48 hours ago for an installation that will be using the energy of visitors walking from the car park. Their energy will go into benches. So if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see these benches. Now the benches will have mobile phone charging stations inbuilt, so people can sit, relax, and have their phones charged. And if you look at the back of the image, there's a digital screen that shows how much energy is being produced. We believe that it's really important to engage people in the energy saving process. There's a huge decarbonisation agenda, but it won't work without people being involved. So you've got to show people how much energy is being produced, and then you've also got to demonstrate what that power can do. Our mission is to bring the price down of our technology and to allow it to be in every single floor in the world in the future. So we're excited to have this live and a formal launch happening in January in partnership with Central Bedfordshire Council, who led this initiative, and we're delighted to collaborate with them. Next slide, please. And I've got 1 minute left. So this is a pilot, and that is exciting. However, we have had 1 billion footsteps on PaveGen to date. We're working with some of the world's largest companies as a high growth technology startup based in London. And so we've got a fantastic track record of Abu Dhabi airports, Heathrow Airport, outside the White House. And we've even built running tracks in Hong Kong. And as people run around a building with a running track in it, they power the lights in the building itself. So we've got a tremendous array of projects internationally, including huge Middle Eastern development projects as well. And the time has been for us now is to move into the rail sector in the UK. We feel like the momentum's strong. There's a really big appetite for innovation, design, and new concepts. And with the government's green agenda, we think it's perfectly fitting. So welcome the chance to get in touch with me, Lawrence@pavegen.com, and hear more about our technology. So thank you very much to Central Bedfordshire and the organisers today. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. 26 seconds to spare, so an efficiency saving as well. Could I invite Toby from MacRebur next, please?
Thank you, Giles. I'm Toby McCartney. I'm the CEO and co-founder for MacRebur, and we're called the Plastic Road Company. What we essentially do is we take waste plastics destined for landfill or for incineration, and we use them as an additive in a road makeup of asphalt. So we use them to replace part of the bitumen, the black oil that goes into a road. Next slide, please. Just to show you a few of the reasons why this is such an innovation and so good for everybody. Because we're replacing part of the bitumen that goes into the asphalt, we reduce carbon emissions, we reduce fossil fuel dependency, of course, of that bitumen. We're recycling the waste plastics. Now that's an important element to what we do. We only use up plastics that are destined for landfill or for incineration. So there's no new plastics that go in. We meet a number of environmental targets around the world, and we're helping to create a circular economy, but not just a circular economy, a local circular economy. So we've literally got it down because of the projects that we've been running down to even a supermarket chain. We can use their local waste to go down into their local roads, and we can do that for every LA in the country too. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example of some of those carbon emission savings, for every ton of asphalt that's produced, we can save 11.32 kilograms of carbon emissions. Just to give you an idea, as part of the Live Labs project, a road went down in the center of Carlisle on Lowther Street. 240 tons, so it was a small trial, but 240 tons of asphalt went down with our waste plastic additives in, and then 240 tons of standard asphalt or a polymer modified asphalt. We were able to save 2,800 kilograms of carbon emissions just from that small trial, and we used up the equivalent of 206,000 plastic or one-time use plastic bags. So that you could fit those into a small shed, to give you an idea of the volume. Also, on top of all of those environmental credentials, we're able to reduce the cost of the manufacture of that asphalt. Our products, because they come from a waste plastic, when we sell them into the asphalt manufacturers, we sell them at cheaper than the bitumen cost. So there's cost savings all the way down the line, not just from a landfill tax, not just from a manufacturer of that asphalt, but also local authorities that are getting rid of that waste plastics, and it's going into landfill or incineration. Next slide, please. Just to talk you through our process here. So on the left-hand side of your screen, what we do is we take selected waste plastics from industry, from commercial waste, household waste as well through local authorities. That plastic then has to go through a very strict quality control procedure with us. And when we get it, we blend it, we mix it with patented additives that go into that mix. We bag it up, and then we distribute it out into the asphalt manufacturers worldwide. So just looking at that, I know we're depicting where that asphalt goes down into roads, but is asphalt used both in the base course and the surface course? It's also used in pavements. For every ton of asphalt, which will resurface about a 10-meter squared area, we're saving 11.32 kilograms of carbon emission. That's equivalent to 900 plastic bags that we're using in there. And that can go down into council car parks, as well as the roads, pavements, and other asphalted areas. So just onto the final slide. So just this is just a final slide to say how much the world, I suppose, and certainly the UK local authorities need what we've got here. We're able to prove out the performance of the asphalt with our waste plastic additives in, but also from an environmental aspect. I think it's essential, especially looking towards a carbon neutral world, as we're all doing. It's essential that we start to use waste plastics in the asphalt that goes down into every local authority. We also have cold products, as well as the products that we add into standard asphalt that's going down onto our roads. Those cold products go to fill those potholes as a temporary pothole filler, and we've managed to develop that over the last 12 months.
Perfect. Thank you. If I could invite Mariana from Vivacity next, please.
So just by way of introduction, thank you, Giles. I'm not Mariana. I'm stepping in for Mariana at the last minute. Unfortunately, she can't be with us today. But thanks for inviting me down. My name is Chan Aujala, and I'm from Vivacity. In today's session, I want to speak about some of the work that we're doing with Kent County Council. And for those that are not familiar with Vivacity, I thought I'd start by giving you an introduction into what Vivacity provides. Vivacity essentially provides traffic sensors that are underpinned by some of the latest artificial intelligence technology. And that technology allows us to capture extremely accurate data about the operation of traffic networks. The sensors provide 24/7 multimodal analysis of traffic networks that gather data not just on vehicles, but also on pedestrians and cyclists, all from the same sensor platform. To give you a sense of how the sensors operate, if we could just go through to the next slide, I've got some sample video footage which we've captured from some of our sensors in various locations. And as you'll see from the video, one sensor is, in this example, automatically classifying vehicles, pedestrians, and also counting them as they move down this particular street. This is an example of classified counts, but this can also be supplemented with junction turning counts. As you can see in this example here, we've got one sensor monitoring 4 arms of this particular junction, where we can obviously achieve classification data, but also understand how vehicles are moving through this particular junction pre and post junction improvements. In addition to this, we can also supplement this data with vehicle speed information, and we can monitor multiple lanes simultaneously in low and high speed environments. And we can add to this with journey time analysis, also using our ANPR detection capabilities. Next slide, please. In terms of the artificial intelligence software that sits on board the sensors, it's able to recognise and distinguish between different road users, 9 at the moment, ranging from the smallest road users, pedestrians and cyclists, right through to a range of motorised vehicles, so motorbikes, cars, vans, different types of trucks, buses, and also Hackney-style taxis. We're actually going to be, in the new year, adding to this classification set with new modes such as e-scooters and cargo bikes as well. And in tests that were conducted by TfL, we actually achieved class-leading accuracy, accuracy rates which had previously not been seen before with an automated system. Next slide, please. In terms of where all this data goes, well, Vivacity provides an online data dashboard where customers can view live data about their network and also data for any historic period. We also, in addition to this, offer a mechanism to integrate data with other systems. And as Carol mentioned from Kent earlier, we've actually been facilitating a number of successful integrations with third-party systems through our API connector package. If you look at the screenshot in the bottom right of that slide there, what you'll actually see is data from the Vivacity dashboard, and this is specifically data from Kent's network. And moving specifically on to Kent, next slide please. We've actually been working with Kent since about September when they came on board with Vivacity. We're rolling out a network of about 30 sensors
1 minute to go
across the county. The first batch of those has already been deployed. Because of the capability of those sensors, Kent are able to use those sensors in a variety of different applications. Some of those applications include measuring the usage of existing active travel schemes, through to monitoring journey times and speeds across the network, especially where there's a reallocation of road space or a lower speed limit has been implemented, all the way through to trialing new capabilities such as near-miss detections. And all of this is in an effort to provide a rich data source to help guide Kent County Council in their efforts to further optimise the network, which is all underpinned by very accurate and a solid evidence base. Thank you.
Thank you. Almost spot on to the second. If I could invite Rod next, please, from Shoot Hill.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. My name is Rod. I'm the Managing Director of Shoot Hill. We're a software company based up in Shrewsbury, Shropshire. We've been around about 15 years, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in the project. If you could just share the next slide, please. In essence, folks, what we're doing is we're building a portal that's going to contain all of the APIs and data sets that you guys are all generating, so that other people, third-party users can actually access that data. Firstly, find the data, access it, and then start to use it in their own applications. And basically, in essence, the data sets are falling into 3 or 4 main areas. Transport, as you can see here, bus. I'll list some of them if you like. So we've got things like, you know, where the locations of vehicles are, Bluetooth data, CCTV, DEFRA data, fault logging systems, pothole reporting database, cycle campaigns, cycle counters, refuse trucks, etc., etc., etc. And the idea is all of this data will be placed in one central repository, which will look like the screen that you can see in front of you. Can you just move on to the next slide, please? They're just screenshots, really. So as you see, we've got basically broken down into different sectors: transport, health, energy, environment, etc., etc. And then when you actually go into those particular individual sections, if you just go to the next slide, you can see what it looks like. We then are going in, we're logging into the system. Once the end user registers, they can then access all of the data that's being stored there. So we've got a lot of experience of bringing data like this to a larger audience. In fact, Shoot Hill got involved in flooding about 10 years ago. We built the first UK's first live flood map that was used by the BBC, Environment Agency, etc. And then we created a set of APIs once that data was opened by the government in 2014. In fact, we created them over a weekend so that the community out there could start using live flood data, which includes things like river levels, rainfall data, river flow data, and of course the actual live flood in itself. So our background is really one of taking raw data, creating a set of APIs, and then supplying that to third parties, and that's what we're doing as part of this project. What more can I say apart from we've enjoyed it so far? We found it very interesting how much data is available. Surprising, actually, the level and the detail of it, because it's excellent data. It really is, and we think that third parties can use it in all sorts of applications. And we're very excited to find out what those apps will be in the future. So really pleased to be part of the project. We're a small piece in this massive scheme, but as I say, it's a great honour for us to be part of it. That's what I've got to say, really.
Thank you. Perfect. If I could invite Alan from Birmingham City University, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Brilliant.
perfect. You can hear me. Great.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Okay, my name is Alan Dolhash. I'm a research fellow at the Digital Media Technology Lab at Birmingham City University, and I'll be talking about our project with the West Midlands Combined Authority, specifically with Transport for West Midlands, aptly titled Serrano, which is a project about computer vision and the application of computer vision techniques for traffic monitoring. Next slide, please. So, in a nutshell, what is it? Well, what we're trying to develop is essentially a general purpose computer vision solution for at-scale traffic monitoring. The goals are mainly for it to be simple and cloud-based, such that it can be deployed to large networks of cameras or connected cameras, to be able to estimate various statistics from the visual data, such as flow, speed, congestion, as well as detecting events such as accidents, and adding the capability to be easily deployed at scale for camera networks, including hundreds or thousands of camera networks, such as the one being developed in the West Midlands right now. So the benefits of this approach include the fact that it's reliable and it's extremely low cost method for extracting video-based data or extracting traffic information from video data. It allows for iterative extension of its functionality. It's based on largely open source software, doesn't require any special camera hardware, and like I mentioned, it's scalable, so it could be easily deployed on cloud-based infrastructures such as Amazon Web Services or Azure. Next slide, please. So how does it work? This is a fairly simple system and largely benefits from the new infrastructure implemented in the West Midlands. So the new infrastructure dealing with transmission of video data is based around this central messaging system that the Transport for West Midlands have began using, which makes this really easy for us to integrate with, since we simply receive streams of camera information or camera frames, video frames essentially. And for each frame received, we essentially extract a range of different statistics and resend this data back to the central messaging system. So what we're essentially doing is processing streams of video and extracting various information that would normally be extracted using physical sensors built into the road, such as scoot loops or the like. And we're able to extract similar information in real time, only using video information or video data. Next slide, please. So the technical parts of how we deal with this is that we break down the video streams coming into our stream processor or our computer vision system into a short-term stream and a longer-term stream. This allows us to perform low-level statistics such as tracking the number of cars in the frame for every frame received. So we can do this currently with our prototype model. We can do this about 10 to 15 times a second. So we can get extremely high temporal accuracy. We can do similar things such as classification of vehicle types or extraction of the relative speed. But more interestingly, we can track individual vehicles across frames of video. So let's say a vehicle enters a junction, we can track it throughout the camera frame and extract higher level information such as turning counts, such as directions that the vehicles came from and went to. And we can aggregate this across the network, of course, because once we know relative arrangements of various junctions and we have cameras, monitoring those, we can very easily extract higher level statistics such as how flow progresses through the entire city based on turning counts at individual junctions. These higher level statistics also allow us to detect things like sudden events or anomalies. Next slide, please. And we're currently ramping up this work to include things like automatic lane labeling, automatic accident and event detection, as well as long-term congestion modeling and dynamic rerouting. So stay tuned, there's more work to come under this stream. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me under the email displayed. And thank you all for your attention, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event.
Fantastic, thank you. If I could invite Richard from Ginger next, please.
Hi, if you could go, oh, perfect, you've started the slide. I'm Richard Bland, I'm the COO of Ginger. We're working in Stafford and indeed across the country, and we run electric scooter services for hire. The government legalised electric scooters for hire back in July. We launched our first deployment up in Middlesbrough in the Tees Valley and launched in Stafford in September. We have a number of deployments, 4 currently live, with another 12 from the large, Lutons and the Leeds, through to the smaller, the Whitehavens and the Great Yarmouth, all yet to come. Next slide. We're different from other electric scooter companies in that we have as our core operating model fixed parking. One of the biggest challenges about electric scooters is the great British public leaving them parked anywhere and everywhere on the street. That causes a lot of issues. If you're pushing a pushchair, or you're in a wheelchair, or you're blind, finding a scooter halfway across the pavement is not a good thing. That doesn't happen with us. We have fixed parking bays. So they have no physical infrastructure. They're powered through GPS and geofencing, and in 78,000 miles of usage, which, as you all know, is about 3 times around the Earth's circumference, we haven't had a single complaint about bad parking. Next slide. The other thing that makes us different is we're slightly evangelical about micromobility, about electric scooters. They should be a form of transport that's available to everyone. Their purpose is to power modal shift. It's to get people out of private cars, get people out of diesel, get people out of petrol. If you price them too high, they're not available for people to use. All you'll get is 25-year-olds on great jobs riding around. For us, they have to be available for everyone. So we have a fixed pricing model. We charge £2 for 20 minutes. That gets you about 3.5 to 4 miles of travel. It's broadly equivalent to public transport. We've got some great rivals out there, some people doing great jobs, but they're expensive. We are the 2nd largest provider of electric scooters in the country. The largest is Voi. They typically charge about £5 for the same distance. So it's a lot more expensive. We're up in Middlesbrough. It's the most deprived local authority in the country. It's probably our most popular place. We see very high usage up there. Our average distance travelled typically across our fleet is about 5.5 miles. Middlesbrough, it's 7. We also offer discounts to key workers and key groups, but the core that underpins our evangelical crusade to get people out of diesel, out of petrol, is that price point. So £2 for 20 minutes. Next slide. Running a scooter fleet is complicated. What's key is not just the parking, but making sure that scooters don't end up in the wrong places. So we have 3 core areas. We have a service area that's geofenced. If you go outside of the service area, the scooters stop. We have no-go zones. There are key areas in any city where you just don't want scooters going. They're typically pedestrianised areas. In those areas, through GPS, the scooters get turned off. They go gradually down to 0 miles an hour. And then there are other areas where there's high footfall, there's high traffic, but it's okay to ride a scooter, but not at full pelt. So we take those areas down to 6.5 miles an hour. Next slide. Key to us is modal shift. The purpose of us being in Stafford is to provide an alternative to how people get around, an environmentally friendly, cheap alternative.
1 minute to go.
With our parking bay, we can monitor where people go to. And typically people have 2 types of journey. They either go for a ride, almost a Sunday drive. We don't mind that. It's a leisure trip. You know, scooters are a lot of fun. Modal shift, though, is about replacing point-to-point transportation that's currently carried out through private cars or public transport with electric scooters. So we can monitor very carefully where people go. And typically we see about 50% of our journeys, and that's increasing kind of week by week, as point-to-point. So that is a journey that would otherwise almost certainly have been taken by personal transport that's not electric. That allows us, by monitoring it, it allows us to determine where to put parking bays, where to increase them, where to put more scooters. And this kind of data, this is live data out of Stafford, this shows exactly kind of what happens in each of the parking bays. Very different mileage. Someone like Bodmin Avenue, one of the kind of more outlying areas of Stafford, we see very high mileage. And also we're seeing very high point-to-point transport there. So exactly 50% of the travel there is point-to-point, which is a real success. We've got 18 parking bays, we're rolling out, it's going really well. We love working with Stafford. We hope that we're a model for what other local authorities can implement to bring in electric transport in a responsible and careful way.
Thank you. Perfect. Could I invite second Richard from Lisa Zodian, please? Hello, are you there?
Hi Giles, apologies there, small technical hiccup. Hi, so thanks for inviting us along to talk today about our combination with Suffolk in terms of the Live Lab. So we're based in West Yorkshire, or Tier 3 as we like to call it nowadays, and we are we're a manufacturer of electronics and electrical control equipment primarily for the UK and European street lighting market, but we also are involved with software development and service development for street lighting and other services in and around the smart city, smart community, or Internet of Things world that is the catch-all that we're sort of talking about here. We also provide sort of infrastructure equipment for the EV market. Next slide, please, Giles. So some background in the UK. There are about 9 million street lights. Suffolk are one of the people that are early adopters with wireless control. About 1/3 to about half of the street lights in the UK are now controlled wirelessly. And the drivers for that adoption have been energy reduction, maintenance reduction, carbon reduction, of course, inventory streamlining and asset management. A few years ago, we were faced with a dilemma that people wanted to move forward towards adding other things onto those large wireless networks. So we have wireless networks across counties that span hundreds of miles, and they wanted to use those. However, the proprietary technologies we were using at the time sort of disallowed that or made it very difficult to do. So we took a step to move towards open technologies like the LoRaWAN that's being used in the Live Labs project for Suffolk. Next slide, please, Giles. So alongside our more legacy equipment, we developed something called Key, which is a smart city, smart community platform where we control multiple items and have them linked through together through open technologies. And what this allows Suffolk to do, of course, is to further reduce energy by dimming the street lighting, work with collaborative partners like Vivacity to do adaptive lighting, interface with smart cameras, and the openness element of the LoRaWAN allows Suffolk to build their own infrastructure without reliance on a single vendor. And that's really important with the sort of business continuity element of some of these large scale deployments and the long-term aspect of these deployments as well. Next slide, please, Giles. In various formats, we can adapt current street lighting to become smart. So we can develop software like the images you're seeing at the moment, but what we can also do is integrate with things like the BT data lake and allow collaboration and software integration with other parties, which means that this platform that you're seeing before you at the moment can be used by Suffolk. But then again, if Suffolk choose to do so, it could use another higher level platform to control street lighting amongst other devices on the same platform as well. And this all fits into the infrastructure piece that Suffolk are trying to adopt, and they're very much forward thinkers in that. There are only a few areas of the UK that are adopting this open standard and open protocol approach to wireless networks across their local authorities. And what our element, our sort of drive to do in the smart
1 minute to go.
In the smart environment is to encourage and define standards in and around this open protocols and allow Suffolk and its citizens to benefit from the efficiency gains that this sort of technology can provide. And,
fantastic. Thank you.
That's about me, really.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I hope people found that interesting. That is a mere just over a tenth of the SMEs and the suppliers that we've got in the Live Lab program. So I'll hand back now via Helen to Neil for the next session.
And like magic, here I am. Thanks, Giles. On behalf of the Commission Board, I'd just like to, even at this point, thank everyone from the SME sector and the Live Lab project leads for the contributions so far today. I think every time we sit down and get an update from everyone that's involved, we just get so excited about what people are doing out there at the moment and the potential over the Live Lab period and beyond for what these projects can deliver. Okay. You're not to panic. I'm not going to talk for 20 minutes about capitalising Live Labs, but I do want to try and stimulate a debate around the so what bit and just reflect a little bit on our journey so far, how we are beginning to capitalise on it, but what we need to do further as a sector moving forward. So this is not just a conversation with the authorities and the leads on the very modest program we've got running here, but it's more trying to stimulate a conversation in the sector, everyone on the call today and who's not here today, about how we do capitalise on this work and bring, as Dave was saying, some more innovation into the sector. I know he kind of wasn't keen to score, but I think the conclusion we came to and the reason why ADEPT got into the Live Labs program in the first place is to try and stimulate more innovation, more excitement around the art of the possible for the benefit of whether you want to be customer obsessed, be systematic in your approach, drive efficiencies and productivities out of what we do. All good reasons to bring innovation. And I think, as the Baroness said this morning, innovation and technology will be the heart of the infrastructure strategy and indeed is the heart of the economic strategy of the UK as we move out of Brexit, out of COVID and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to reinforce or remind us what Hannah told us this morning, the promise we made to ourselves as a commissioning board, but to the government, who's the investor in the programme. Our promise was to use these labs to transform local places, and hopefully you've seen a bit of that today so far. We wanted to deliver innovation at pace, not just talk about it, but actually land it on the ground, and hopefully you've got a feel for what has actually happened despite procurement, despite 151 officers, despite COVID. The team have done great to deliver these projects on the ground at pace, to demonstrate effectiveness, and we're hopefully be doing that now through things like the research programs, the monitoring programs, but we're already beginning to see that effectiveness on the ground, whether it be data capture, data utilization, plastic and roads, and so on. And it was essential that we gathered insight, knowledge to allow others to innovate outside the program, not just across the program. And ultimately, the holy grail to create the new norm. Very clear ambition from the commissioning board is that at the end of the 2-year period, not only had a great time, done some really great stuff, delivered some real product, but business as usual actually changes. So that was the promise we made to ourselves and to the department as we took a bag of cash. Next slide, please. So expectations are high. The people driving the projects know that. We tell them on a regular basis, and so they're well aware of that. Expectations are high, particularly to prove those business as usual capabilities. What we need to do is create more pebbles in the pond. Back to Hannah's point earlier on at the start of the session, this isn't just about the handful of projects we're going through this initiative, but it's more around innovation more broadly in the sector and bring those thoughts of innovation together, not just in highways, but across other aspects of place delivery too. And we want to use that high expectation, the pebbles in the pond, to enable other authorities to stretch, to feel they too can get into the innovation space if they're not in there as much as they might be at the moment, and to get the broader sector and supply chains ready. I think the SME bit was really powerful and really important. One of the observations the SME sectors have made for ADEPT for many years now is the difficulty they find in penetrating our procurement processes in local authorities to get into the business. I think what we've demonstrated with this Live Lab program is the rapid way in which working with some of our tier 1 providers, the SMEs and the Eurovias and the Atkins and so on of this world, that we can actually very swiftly bring supply chains into our business and bring that innovation with them. Next slide, please. So capitalising, assess how we might do it. There's something definitely about retrofitting business cases. Every Live Lab bid put a very high level business proposition together as part of our decision to invest in them. I think it's probably fair to say those business cases have been evolving as they've been experimenting, finding out what works, what doesn't work. Ultimately, the business cases will have to be retrofitted as a business case study that others might be able to utilize and work with moving forward. So recognizing making the argument to invest with politicians in a tight financial climate for the benefits is really important. So we should have a suite of retrofit business cases that others can use. There's something around the broad outcomes. I don't think when the Buckinghamshire project, for example, went in through the hat in the ring, they thought they'd be seconding or bringing someone from adult social care like Zoe there and looking at some of the broader social community outcomes that could come out of the infrastructure and the investment. I don't suppose that Cumbria necessarily thought they'd get into assessing 30 odd other initiatives using plastic and roads around the UK or perhaps even internationally around some of the broader outcomes. So I think what we're doing here is beginning to encourage the live labs to capture the broader environmental, social and economic outputs, not just from the slightly more tactical or tighter outputs they thought they might be getting from these innovation programs. And those are really powerful outcomes you can sell through simple stories. The more we can simplify our message, move out of the technical space, use plainer language, visualize these things, and sell the benefits, the better. And the other way of capitalizing success, based on the experience so far, is the need to get local leadership involved. Several of the projects have talked about the importance of bringing in neighbours, local authorities, politicians, senior executive leaders, local enterprise partnerships, and so on. Getting those leaders interested, obsessed, advocates for these innovation projects is a powerful force, both within the authorities and the areas you're working in, but across their broader networks across the UK. Next slide, please. So what are our asks of the sector, you on the call and those beyond? Continue to invest your valuable time in getting involved in events like this, to understand what's going on, to share and advocate the innovation you're doing. Shout it from the rooftops. I think the programme has clearly shown, if you look at the profile of some of the people presenting on their projects, their live lab projects today, the gender mix, the age mix, the variety of people coming from necessarily from outside, not necessarily in the mainstream sector. So a very clear ask there about the ability to spot innovators in your organization. They might not necessarily be in the usual places. Using the private sector, incredibly powerful. Don't be restricted by procurement necessarily. Be curious, find out who's in your sector, in your place, in your local business community. The networks that your primary suppliers might have are extensive. Use the private sector to help you innovate and think about the impossible. And it's been said several times, don't be concerned about failure. One of the interesting hurdles we faced working with the Live Lab cohort was encouraging people to talk about things that weren't working well. Things that don't work well are not necessarily failures, they're just perhaps breaks or blockages we need to understand and work out how we can get around them. So having a culture of being prepared to talk openly around things that aren't going well and what we can do about it is a massive part. And I think sometimes in our sector, we're not great at talking about things that are going wrong and what we can do to help resolve them. And finally, it's open source. The deal in a sector that can be quite siloed, can be quite competitive, not necessarily share innovation and impact of innovation. We're very, very clear in this program, this is all open source data. It's not owned by anyone except everyone out there that wants to learn, listen, and move forward on it. Next slide, please. So that's all I want to say. I do want to thank our commercial partners. Now we talked about the commissioning board several times. Just the people whose organisational names are at the bottom of the slide have been absolutely instrumental in promoting this programme, providing secondees from their organisations to help us move it along, and remain committed and enthusiastic to push this programme along. So heartfelt thanks from ADEPT and from government to those commercial organisations. What I'd like to do now is a bit of an experiment. I'd like people who have any comments around scaling up or capitalising or questions to put your hand up. There is a hand up facility, I'm told, on this platform. And Helen, who's quietly working away in the background to make all this stuff stick together, will be able to see your hand up, and in theory, should be able to project you onto the screen so you can ask your question or make your comment. So I'm going to just hope that in the background, people A, want to ask questions and make comments, and B, that the system will allow us to make that happen.
Okay, Rebecca Hooper's raised her hand. I'm just going to unmute her.
Thank you.
Rebecca, I think you're going to have to unmute yourself. It's not letting me do it.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me now.
Oh, hi, Rebecca. Yes, we can. Over to you.
You can't hear me, you can't see me though, I guess, but yeah. So my name is Rebecca Hooper. I'm the director of the British Lyme Association. We've been working quite a lot with local authorities. Some of the participants may have spoken to me previously, and we're very close to getting a UK road trial for the use of hydrated lime as an asphalt modifier, with a view to trying to demonstrate UK applicability for some of the anti-aging benefits for asphalt surfacings. Now, clearly, that's work that we've done, we've advocated, we've found partners through the BLA with local authorities. How would we engage with you to make it a live lab project? We're not asking for anything, just the opportunity to share the knowledge that we're developing.
Okay. Thanks, Rebecca. What I'd suggest you do is drop a quick line to Hannah explaining what you've just outlined, and we can take it away and look at the way in which we can embrace this innovation within the brand and the broader Live Lab program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Any more hands up, Helen?
Yeah, Yogesh Patel's got his hand up. Yogesh, you're also going to have to unmute yourself.
No problem, thank you.
Hi, Yogesh.
Hi, Neil. Thank you for a great set of presentations from everybody. My comment was really around something that David Simmons mentioned this morning around the 4 criteria. And I know you picked up on the need for customer focus and enthusiasm and passion. We often in our sector put ourselves down in saying that we're not innovative, and I think that may have been true in the past, but certainly in the last 5 years, I do believe that our sector is starting to experiment a lot more, embrace new technologies, embrace ideas from different sectors. However, one thing that I think we are not perhaps as good at is systemizing that. Something that David mentioned this morning. How do we turn the results of all of these experiments and pick up the successful ones and turn that into business as usual quickly and incorporate it into our revised standards and revised ways of working and scale up quickly? And I think that's an area that we perhaps need to do a little bit more work as a sector. I just welcome your comments on that.
Thanks, Yogesh. And of course, Yogesh didn't say, but I'll say it for him. Yogesh and Ringway are active members of the commissioning board. Thanks, Yogesh. Personally, I would agree. I think we're seeing more use of technology in many aspects of the sector, but as you say, it's not systematic. It's not mainstream yet. How do we do it? I think one of the reflections we'll have as a commissioning board is, as we go through the next 12 months, is what would have to change based on the evidence and the benefits we're getting from the live labs alone. What would have to change in the system as a whole to embrace, to become BAU? And we've started some of this debate with the Department of Transport. It might be in the future that national policy has to change, regulation, guidance. It might be that for
funding, whether it be revenue funding for maintenance or funding for capital projects, the department might specify, require certain bits of innovation to be taken as read in funding agreements. So I think government has a role to play to make it a requirement of a non-negotiable process. I think within the sector as a whole, as local authorities and as private sector providers, we are notoriously poor at communicating and learning from each other. Now that might be driven by commercial factors, time, there's a number of kind of human, cultural, financial, commercial reasons probably. I think our hope is that the newly formed Highway Sector Council, which operates between the stools of government, national and local councils and the private sector, can become the forum that might have some, that might be able to standardise and systemize this a bit more across the sector as a whole. I think ADEPT is hoping that vehicle in particular, which is newly formed and coming out of the need to drive more systematic improvements across the sector as a whole, might be the place for that. But it's a great question, and it's one of the reasons that ADEPT got into Live Labs in the first place, as part of trying to solve that wicked issue. I think we've probably got time for at least one more question, if not two. Is there any more hands up, Helen?
Yeah, Toby McCartney would like to ask a question.
Hi, Toby.
Hi there, Neil. Although we're doing very well with the Live Labs project, it's fantastic for us, especially up here in Cumbria. One of the challenges, or the main challenges that we've had, is because of the extension of the project, a number of local authorities are now waiting for the end of the project before they'll start working with us. So it's almost restricting us until the end of the project. Is there a way that we can communicate to other local authorities to say, well, we've proven out part of what we've got. There's still work to be done with regards to local waste plastics used in local roads, but it's just making sure that we can through Live Labs really communicate with the other local authorities, say, we can work through them as well, despite being a part of the Live Labs project. We don't have to wait till the end of November.
Well, that's spot on. There is no impediment from this project's perspective to anyone wanting to experiment with plastic in the roads with you or any other company, quite frankly. So clearly our initiative has a beginning and an end in time frame and financial terms, and we hope to be clearer at the end of the project as to whether the benefits are really there and the durability is there. But that doesn't prevent any other council from working with you or any other company now and experimenting with plastic and roads. And in fact, as Cumbria said, I think they said there's something like 30 other things kicking off around the country and the world that they're trying to gather together. So I think in a year's time, we might have more information, more insights, better data, but we're not preventing any other organisation joining in that party now and getting involved.
Yeah, great.
It's entirely up to them. And if there's a bit of a myth going out there, then certainly through our communication, we can bust that myth.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Helen, any other hands up?
No, no more hands up. No questions in the question box.
Perfect. Right. Thank you. That more or less is bringing us back on the nose. So, Giles, can I hand over to you for the next session, please?
Giles, you're on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Giles.
Just brilliant, thank you. Just to join all these threads together, we're a year and some months because of COVID into the programme, and as we've just heard, the programme is extended to November 2021. That does not mean that the programme waits until November 2021, because indeed some of the live labs that we've heard about will be delivering earlier. So what we're thinking about when we step through the stages of our innovations, how we're scaling things, moving towards business as usual, a new normal, if you like, for these innovations, these sort of interventions in the highway sector, and importantly, delivering benefits downstream. So where we're at the moment, and you will see this through the news that we'll be putting out, through the ADEPT website, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. We're not on TikTok yet because we haven't worked out how to do that. More installations going in. You heard from PaveGen earlier about the exciting installations at Leighton Buzzard. Lots more things happening because we're coming out of lockdown, because designs are complete, installations happening all over the place. We're starting to see outputs and outcomes coming together. So you will start to see reporting. And if you've followed, we're producing our quarterly white papers on different subjects. So our next one that's being worked up at the moment is the digital components within all of the live labs, and we'll continue to publish those white papers and positively encouraging all our live labs to start to be sharing the information that comes out of the program. So that sharing of outputs, and Neil's touched on this right the way through really, it's getting the data and the insights to allow new business cases to be created. So this is the retrofitting, if you like. It's the process that David talked around right in his opener about how you develop a pilot, how you collect the evidence to create business cases to allow an acceleration, and that's what we're doing. So we'll be really moving into the stages as we start to deliver projects, as we start to collect data through the monitoring and evaluation program, which, as Hannah said, is very, very deep and comprehensive, arguably deeper than anything that the sector's seen so far, collecting that data and then open sourcing those results to allow others to be able to put your business cases forward, to feed into your policies, your strategies, your plans and your programs. Because what we're wanting to do, this isn't just about demonstrating what we're doing with pilots. And you heard it from the Baroness in the opening this morning. This is about achieving a step change. This is about making this a new normal. This is about delivering efficiencies in the highway sector, especially coming out of these really challenging times and within the context of all of the changes that are wrapping around the highway in terms of its use, in terms of its customers, in terms of the types of vehicles, in terms of climate change, air quality, the list goes on and on. So what we're trying to do is to give all of you on the call, all of your colleagues, all of your networks, a new set of data, a new set of insights, a new set of business cases that leaves a legacy of change after this program. So going into 2021 and right the way through the period, you will start to see more information coming out, more reporting going on, some of the live labs actually completing as we get towards the summer, and then at the end of the program, another set of sharing. So we've got the Live Labs Expo, which will be in June of next year, and then we'll have another sharing exercise a year from now to wrap up the whole of the program. So please, engage with us, get in touch with us, either through the contacts you've seen in individual live labs or through Hannah or myself or Neil or anybody that you know through any social media channel. We can link you up with other people. We've had some really interesting international outreach starting to happen where other territories, other countries are reaching out and saying, actually, how have you gone about that innovation? What does it mean for our places? And we're absolutely open to sharing what we can, when we can, with whoever we can, right the way through. So it's a call to arms, really. Google ADEPT Live Labs. Get it out into your networks. The more eyes, ears that we have all over this, the more value that we can add, and the more that we collectively achieve, and the wider benefits that we all achieve for the highway sector. So that's what's going to happen over the next 2 days, less than a year. So it's exciting. The clock is ticking. So thank you. I don't know, Neil, if you've got any closing thoughts?
Thanks, Giles. No, I think just to thank all the participants, because I know time is precious at the moment. So I'm just looking at the attendees. We've managed to hang on to most people for most of the time, which is brilliant. Thanks to all SMEs that participated and to those that were on today, particularly to the project leads who I know are really proud of their projects and are working with us to get that call to arms and those messages out. and the silent people in the background, like Helen, who have been just trying to make this session work today. So thanks to everyone involved, including those I haven't mentioned. And we will hopefully be able to see you all face to face next June. When we've all had our jabs, we can congregate again in places. And I think I'd just like to bring it all to a close. Enjoy the rest of your day, and keep on thinking innovation, and let's get obsessed with our customers. Okay, thank you all. Bye-bye.